Independent National Electoral Commission says it has taken up petitions against Governor Rochas Okorocha's emergence as Imo West Senator-elect. Federal government warns against violation of reductions in jam fees and other levies. In international news, Trump former lawyer testifies before Congress, calls the president a conman, a cheat, and a racist. And in sport, Mauritania comes up with first women's team after Nations Cup success.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. 15 former and incumbent governors will join the 9th session of the National Assembly as senators when it resumes in June, based on the results released so far. They include former governor of Abia State, Orji Kalu from Abia North, and his successor, Theodore Orji, Abia Central. Borno State incumbent governor, Kashim Shettima, has won the senatorial poll for the state's central district. Ebonyi former governor Sam Ego was re-elected to represent Ebonyi North. Former governor of Gombe State, Senator Danjuma Goje, will represent Gombe Central. Imo State incumbent governor Rochas Okorocha also emerged senator-elect for Imo West, but the result is being challenged. Ibekunle Amosun, who represented Ogun Central District between 2003 and 2007, won the senatorial poll in the district on Saturday. APC won 62 senatorial seats against PDP's 35. And you can get a complete list on IX website. The Presidential National Assembly elections are over, and attention has now shifted to leadership contest in the two chambers. The speakership tussle in the House of Representatives will be a reenactment of the 2015 contest between Dogara and Gbajabiamila. 4 years ago, Dogara, representing Balewa Federal Constituency of Bauchi State, edged out Gbajabiamila, representing Surulere Federal Constituency of Lagos State. APC leadership had preferred of the latter, but their choice was edged out in the end. Senator Godswill Akpabio of the APC, who lost his Ikot Ekpanes Senate seat on Saturday, has vowed to recover his mandate through the courts, specifically the Election Petitions Tribunal. Former Governor Akpabio was beaten by his former deputy PDP's Chris Ekpayong. He polled 118,215 votes to win the election. Akpabio, who currently represents the district at the National Assembly, scored 83,158 to place second. Akpabio says he believes strongly that the collation was flawed. The Independent National Electoral Commission said it has started looking into petitions filed against the declaration of Governor Rochas Okorocha of Imo State as Imo West Senator-elect. Imo INEC Voters Education Officer Adedoyin Sunday confirmed this in Owerri while addressing hundreds of women from Imo West Senatorial District who demonstrated at the INEC's office in Port Harcourt. Adedoyin assured the women the commission will be neutral in investigating their concerns. He said INEC is looking into other petitions concerning Governor Rochas Okorocha's victory. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to refer all cases of electoral violence to the International Criminal Court. In a letter by its deputy director, Kolawole Oluwadare, SERAP said all allegations of electoral violence, intimidation and killings between 1999 and 2019 should be handed over to the ICC for investigation and prosecution. SERAP says given these cases the attention they deserve will send a very strong message that electoral violence, intimidation and killings will not be tolerated anymore in the country. Meanwhile, two civil society organizations, the Socio-Economic and Right Accountability Project and the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, are saying President Buhari should probe the 16 billion naira power projects that were purportedly carried out during former President Obasanjo's administration. They are also calling for action against perceived corrupt former leaders. SERAP Director Adetokunbo Mumuni charged that previous regimes have misappropriated large sums of money on projects that were never viable. They said any former leader that is found culpable shall be brought to justice. To court matters, the Court of Appeal in Abuja has reserved judgment in 4 separate appeals filed by the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onohe, in connection with his trial before the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The suspended CJN in one of the appeals challenged the jurisdiction of the CCT to hear the non-declaration of assets charges instituted against him. Another appeal challenged the ex parte order on which President Buhari relied to suspend the CJN. He used the same order to appoint Acting Chief Justice Tanko Muhammad. The third appeal challenged the CCT's refusal to be bound by the orders made by the Federal High Court and the National Industrial Court, directing the tribunal to halt the CJN's trial. The last one wants the courts to set aside CCT's arrest warrant issued against Onohe on February 13th. A 3-man bench of the court led by Justice Stephen Ada finally heard the 4 appeals and reserved judgment after the cases had been adjourned on 3 previous occasions.
We are happy that this matter is at least over. We wait for the judgment and see what their lordship think of it.
The Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended is still the best bargain for both the executive, the legislature, and judiciary. And therefore, on that constitution we stand.
An FCT High Court on Wednesday rejected an application by former National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki for an indefinite adjournment, pending the compliance to a bail ordered by the federal government. In July last year, Dasuki was granted bail from the custody of the State Security Service, where he had been detained for 2.5 years. Dasuki, with former Minister of State for Finance Bashir Yuguda and former Secretary of State Governor Tahiru Bafarawa, is charged with 25 counts bordering on conspiracy, bribery, abuse of office, and criminal breach of trust to the tune of 19.5 billion naira. In his ruling, Justice Hussein Baba Yusuf says there was nothing before the court to show that Dasuki had approached the judge for the enforcement of the order. Justice Baba Yusuf dismissed the application as an abuse of court process and then adjourned until April for definite hearing. To court matters, the Court of Appeal in Abuja has reserved judgment in 4 separate appeals filed by the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onohe, in connection with his trial before the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The suspended CJN in one of the appeals challenged the jurisdiction of the CCT to hear the non-declaration of assets charges instituted against him. Another appeal challenged the ex parte order on which President Buhari relied to suspend the CJN. He used the same order to appoint Acting Chief Justice Tanko Muhammad. The third appeal challenged the CCT's refusal to be bound by the orders made by the Federal High Court and the National Industrial Court, directing the tribunal to halt the CJN's trial. The last one wants the courts to set aside CCT's arrest warrant issued against Onohe on February 13th. A 3-man bench of the court led by Justice Stephen Ada finally heard the 4 appeals and reserved judgment after the cases had been adjourned on 3 previous occasions.
We are happy that this matter is at least over. We wait for the judgment and see what their lordship think of it.
And finally, in this segment, the federal government has issued a stern warning against an institution that violates the directive on reduction of levies and fees charged students and candidates at various levels in the country. Minister of Education Malam Adamu, who gave the warning in Abuja, insisted that it is a deliberate policy of the current administration to reduce the levies in schools and examination fees to reduce the burden on parents and guardians. Adamu says some of those fees and levies, including the post-unified tertiary matriculation examination fees, that were as high as 15,000 naira in some universities. The National Examination Council, NECO, and West African Secondary School Certificate examination fees also rose astronomically. Adamu emphasized the importance of abiding by the stipulated charges. Coming up, African stories, fire spread on Mount Kenya, and later international news, Cohen calls President Trump a con man.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ENN News. Now to African stories. Kenyan authorities are struggling to contain the spread of fires that have destroyed vegetation and killed wildfire in important Mount Kenya National Park. The fire started on Saturday and have been spreading because of high winds and extremely dry conditions. The park's senior warden, Isaac Mugo, said efforts are ongoing to put out the inferno. The cause of the fire is unknown, but Kenyan Wildlife Trust has appealed for funding so helicopters can spend more time dousing the slopes of Mount Kenya with water. It says the flames are dangerously close to a forest which serves as a vital water catchment for millions in the population. Sudan's social media access has been restored after a 10-week shutdown by the government. Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir declared a year-long state of emergency last week and banned unauthorized assembly and public demonstrations because the protests had continued. The country has been rocked by near-daily demonstrations as a result of cuts to bread and fuel subsidies. Protesters are calling for the president to resign. Egyptian authorities say a fight between two train conductors caused a speeding unmanned locomotive to slam into a barrier and explode, killing 25 persons in Cairo's main train station on Wednesday. Railway officials say the single rail car collided head-on with a buffer stop, causing a huge explosion and fire. At least 47 persons were also injured and many critically. Officials say the death toll could rise.
وانا معدي من بره حوالي الساعه 10 كده سمعت صوت انفجار ودخنه كبيره والناس عماله تخرج من المحطه وتصور. فالطبيعي ان انا دخلت عشان اشوف. فاول ما دخلت لقيته بيقولوا حريقه كبيره في المحطه. لقينا طفله الناس مسنداها ومخرجينها.
Egypt's Prosecutor General Nabil Sadek says investigators have determined the locomotive's conductor had left his car to fight with another conductor without any measures to break it. Transportation Minister Hisham Arafat has resigned over the incident. Up next, international news. Trump's former lawyer Cohen says his former boss is a racist. And later, sport. Mauritania with first women's team after Nations Cup success.
You are watching ANN.
Looking for some Disney magic but don't know where to find it? We've got a magical solution just for you. Simply go to DisneyNigeria.mobi and get an exciting selection of games, short videos, wallpapers, shareables, and more. Explore a whole new world of Disney on your mobile, tablet, or PC. For just 200 Naira monthly, you get to enjoy the fun to infinity and beyond. SMS Disney to 11006 to begin. Terms and conditions apply. This service is only available to MTN customers.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to foreign stories. The much-touted second meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ended without any agreement. Trump said on Thursday there could be no agreement because Kim was demanding an end to punishing U.S.-led sanctions. Earlier, but Trump and Kim had expressed hope for progress on the key issue of denuclearization in their talks in the Vietnamese capital, Hanoi. This summit was their second in 8 months. In a news conference that followed the talks, Trump said Kim wanted the U.S. to lift the sanctions, and that could not be done, so he had to walk away from it. The summit talks were cut short, and both leaders scrapped their planned lunch together and returned to their hotels. This failure to reach an agreement marks a setback for Trump, who had always bragged as a deal maker. As his meeting with Kim took on an air of failure, Trump faces pressure at home over his ties to Russia and testimony from Michael Cohen, his former personal lawyer who had accused him of breaking the law while in office. Trump said Cohen lied a lot during congressional testimony in Washington on Wednesday to reduce his prison time. Cohen is set to begin serving a 3-year prison sentence in May. He was disbarred in New York after pleading guilty to lying to Congress about his pursuit of a potential Trump Tower development in Moscow and committing campaign finance violations. During his testimony under oath before the House Oversight Committee, Cohen called Trump a racist, a conman, and a cheat. Pakistan military says it has shot down 2 Indian warplanes on Wednesday in the disputed region of Kashmir and captured a pilot. This has raised tensions between the nuclear-armed rivals to a level unseen in 20 years. The dramatic escalation came hours after Pakistan said mortar shells fired by Indian troops from across the frontier dividing the 2 sectors of Kashmir killed 6 civilians and wounded several others. Earlier on Tuesday, Indian warplanes have struck inside Pakistan for the first time since the war in 1971. Both sides have ordered airstrikes over the last 2 days, the first time in history that the nuclear-armed powers have done so. The ground forces have also exchanged fire in more than a dozen locations. Wales Minister for International Relations Owen Morgan has said a no-deal Brexit will lead to a 10% decrease of the Welsh economy, and that is making the local government more anxious. UK Prime Minister Theresa May has confirmed on Sunday that a vote by British lawmakers on the Brexit deal will be postponed against the middle of March. Wales is increasingly fearful. It says a catastrophic no-deal Brexit, which would cause a worst-case scenario, remains so much on the table. The minister stressed Wales' position to oppose a no-deal Brexit during a television interview.
The Welsh Government, I think, wanted to send a signal at the time of Brexit to say we are open for business. We don't want to give the impression that we are closing our minds or our doors to the world. We're really welcoming to the world. We want people to understand that we are open for investment, that we are keen to engage with the world.
The total value of Welsh exports reached $19 billion last year, 60% of which went to the EU. To protect its economy, the Welsh government is willing to stay in the European single market and in the European Union Customs Union.
Has postponed decisions. She's already had her main suggestion on the deal be rejected significantly here. And it's pretty clear now that she is just waiting for time to go, so that in the end people will have to decide between a no deal and her deal, and that's not a position that we are happy to accept.
Still ahead, sport. Mauritania comes up with first women's team after Nations Cup success. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you the use Palasa, your phone no the answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone when no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone when no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand, that's Palasa phone.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Mauritania is set to pick its first women's national team after putting in place measures designed to develop the women's game. With 100 days to go until the start of the FIFA Women's World Cup in France, the Mauritania Football Federation said it wants to popularize women's football. The commission says it has money to reconcile the general public with men's football. The objective now is to unite the same public with the women's game. South Africa's women's team will pick up their World Cup preparations this week when they participate in the annual Cyprus Cup for the 7th time. They're guaranteed 4 matches over the next 2 weeks. South Africa qualified for the Women's World Cup for the first time after several near misses. They plan to have an active 6 months of preparation before kickoff in June. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit the website annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.